Hi, I'm Steve and welcome to Patriot Bars Behind the Scenes. Now, as I'm sure you may have already been able to deduce, this video is a follow-up or a sequel to the original The Struggle is Real video that I made a while back. You know, what you really mean is more of your girly drama. Well, anyways, if you haven't seen that video yet, you can check it out right about there. Oh, by all means, get on with your little life update. Ignore him. Anyways, where was I? In the first video, I related some of my personal struggles, especially with my diet. Now I know there are many food insecure or downright starving people in this world, so you know it can seem vain and self-centered to admit that you're struggling with food issues. And by the way, I do know what it feels like to not get enough to eat. Now there was a period of time when I was a teenager when, you know, for reasons that I won't get into here, my one main meal of the day was lunch at school, in the high school cafeteria.
Wow.
And you know, heck, the only reason I even bothered to get up and go to school, I think, was for that one meal that I would get there, that one good meal, usually a nice big sub sandwich or something like that. But for the rest of the day, I usually had practically nothing to eat. You know, maybe a few handfuls of dry breakfast cereal and maybe a little Gatorade, you know, water. Now, you know, don't feel sorry for me. This only lasted a few months, and I was partly to blame for the situation. But I'm telling you, for being a growing boy and all, I was, you know, maybe 16, well, going to bed with, you know, basically a growling stomach every night, well, that really sucked.
Man,
But, you know, that's the past. So, you know, we're going to leave it there. But anyways, fast forward to the future, or rather, our present, I think.
Report.
Yeah, well, to be honest, although I have, you know, I've made some small improvements, I'm still struggling. So, in a nutshell, I broke my promise to eat completely clean.
A promise you can't keep.
In fact, if you check my work van, I'm sure you'd find maybe a McDonald's wrapper or an empty Dairy Queen Blizzard cup in my van garbage can. You know, and for that, I'm ashamed. Now, you know, life can drive you crazy, and I feel like I'm always busy. You know, and running out of healthy food, you know, constantly.
Ha! Excuse after stupid excuse. Pathetic.
Well,
What we need's a few good taters.
you know, I think the real reason people cheat on their diets isn't because they miss the tastes of certain foods per se. It's usually because of convenience or necessity. Now, necessity, you ask? Well, let me share a little story with you that happened to me just the other day. I was at the hardware store at about 9:30 p.m. and it was starting to get dark. And I just got out of the hardware store after purchasing my hardware items, and I get in my van and I go to start, you know, and nothing, dead. No battery power whatsoever. And so I'm stranded in the parking lot.
Where are you?
And, you know, it's getting late, and I'm like, well, let's see, what am I going to do here? So I called my uncle up, and I asked him to grab some jumper cables and come help me out. You know, which he was nice enough to do, by the way, even though he lives about 30 or 40 minutes away from me. You know, I was pretty close to home. But anyways, while I'm waiting, I realized that I'm starting to get hungry. And obviously, there's no way to get home to my fridge and my healthy food. So what did I do? I marched right back into Home Depot and I bought 2 candy bars, a Reese's and a Snickers, and also a Pop and a water. And honestly, I felt like I needed them too. It took a while for my uncle to get there with the jumper cables. And then we tried to start my van for like 45 minutes or so, but no luck.
What's the matter with you? You can't even rent your own vehicle properly? Despicable.
Well, you know, this guy's really starting to get on my nerves. But anyways, to continue. Anyways, by that time I'd consumed my snacks and we decided to give up for the night. We couldn't get my van started, so we decided, let's pull my battery out and I'll deal with it the next day in the morning. Now, it was pretty late by that time and I was starving, so I asked my uncle to drive me to the nearest restaurant that was still open, which was Wendy's, by the way, a fast food restaurant. And, you know, I was hungry, so I ordered a Baconator and fries and even more Diet Pop. Now, I don't know about you, but giving in a little or having a cheat meal, well, that never seems to work for me. See, I've got a kind of an all or nothing personality. So if I give in to any foods that I shouldn't have, well, I keep wanting to eat more and more of them. And what happened is over the course of the next few days, I went back to Wendy's 2 or 3 more times when I didn't really have to, when it wasn't an emergency.
Very
And it's always like that. I feel like I can't stop. Even if I thought I beat a certain type of food, like fast food, cheeseburgers or ice cream or what have you, but I beat them by not eating it for a month or two. Well, the second that I give in even a little bit, then bam, it's like it has control over me again. And all the hard work that I put in over the course of a few weeks or a month or more, well, all of that progress just starts to vanish. And it's the same with drinks. Now, I don't drink alcohol ever. But, I'm talking about Diet Pop or too much coffee or too much cream in my coffee, things like that.
The only drink a real man needs is water.
Well, anyways, when you think about it, we really do live in a unique time in human history, at least in most of the world that might be watching this video. We have plenty of food, too much of it in fact, but the vast majority of it is unhealthy for us.
Thanks for the history lesson, Aristotle.
Well, listen, I'm pretty sure he was a philosopher, not a historian, so... Anyways, moving on. Back to my story. We pulled the battery out, and my uncle drove me home, and, by that time, it was pretty late at night. So the next day, and by the way, my vehicle is still stranded in the parking lot. Well, the next day I had to walk the battery back to the auto parts store, which is only 1.5 miles away. So they could test the battery. Now my multimeter at home, well, it showed the battery had a full charge, but I needed to take the battery to the auto parts store so they could test it for cold cranking amps. And auto parts have a machine that can do that, in case you didn't know. Now, if you've ever picked up a van or a truck battery, you know that they're pretty heavy. But it's only 1.5 miles away from my house, only 1.5 mile walk, so I figure I'll be fine. So I grabbed my old Alice pack. I lashed the battery into the top radio compartment, added some tools, supplies, food, and water to my pack, and I headed out. Now this was the next morning, so it was a really hot, humid summer day. It was not really morning, it was afternoon. So as I headed out, a couple of minutes later, I was really sweating balls.
Balls flying all over the place.
And honestly, the ruck was much harder than I thought.
Ha! Well, no big surprise there.
Anyways, now I hadn't rucked since wintertime. I was focusing on other things, But I remember thinking to myself, you're really letting yourself go. You shouldn't be moving this slow and huffing and puffing like this.
Well, now at least you're talking some sense.
Anyways, I rucked to my van and finally made it there, which was still disabled in the parking lot, about halfway to the auto parts store. And so I took the battery out of my ruck so I wouldn't look like a psycho wearing a rucksack into the auto parts store. And I decided to farmer's walk the battery the rest of the way, leaving my pack and my tools and stuff in the vehicle. Now, I think you can see where this story is going.
I know!
Farmers walking the battery the rest of the way to the store was harder than I thought. Way harder. My clothes were soaked through with sweat by the time I got there, and I was looking very sad and pathetic and tired indeed.
Well, that just figures. Stick a fork in this guy, he's done.
Ow!
Now, not to go off on a tangent, but I noticed something about the battery's handle strap. Now, it was a completely flat handle, unlike a dumbbell or a kettlebell, which has a round handle.
Yeah, so?
Well, this causes different muscles in the forearm and to some extent the hand to activate when you're carrying it, when you're doing the farmer's walk, so to speak. So my forearms were sore in a way that they had never been before. See what I did there with the little rhyme? Anyways, I didn't want this to happen again. I didn't want to be unprepared again. So, I got to work on the problem.
We have worked.
And afterwards, I devised a training tool that could help me train, a flat farmer's walk. And I think that I will make a video about it pretty soon, and I'll put it on the Patriot Bars main channel. I have 2 channels in case you didn't know. So anyways, the auto parts store tested my battery, and they said it was fine. So puzzled, I left the store and I schlepped the battery the rest of the way back to my van. And, by this time I was exhausted, and other people could tell. And a nice fella, a veteran by the looks of him, he saw me practically limping into the Home Depot parking lot where my van was, and he offered to help me get it back up and running. So I really appreciate that. That there are still helpful people in this world who will offer to help a stranger. But I politely declined, and I was able to get my vehicle started myself with the tools that I keep into my work van. So I was able to drive home. And for anybody who cares, the problem ended up being a loose and somewhat broken and defective positive battery cable. So honestly, that was totally preventable and a very bad mistake on my part not to detect it earlier. I could have saved myself and my uncle so much trouble.
You suck.
But this is not an automotive repair channel, so I'm just gonna shut up and we'll leave it at that. And speaking of channels, I'd like to take this moment real quick to thank the few, emphasis on few, returning viewers that I have that have stuck by me. Honestly, I've had some hits as well as some misses in my relatively short YouTube career. And I get a few thumbs up and a few thumbs down, and obviously my channels are small, and like you may suspect, I don't exactly have star power like a big celebrity, or the large viewership of popular YouTubers.
Trend on time.
And honestly, the budget for Patriot Bars videos is lower than it's ever been before, as I'm sure you can tell. I'm filming this in my living room. And now, I know there are plenty of other things you could be watching right now. A big budget Hollywood movie.
Avengers!
Maybe a popular TV show.
Have you ever seen a dragon?
Or if it's close to bedtime, maybe some high quality ASMR. So, if you're out there and you're watching this, let me just say thanks. I appreciate you. I really do.
Thank.
And, I'll try not to fall off the wagon. Yeah, you better not. I'll be watching you. You know what? And I'm gonna do my very best to try to keep making videos that you find, semi-relevant or mildly entertaining, for as long as I possibly can. Well, bravo! Are you finished yet? This ain't the Academy Awards. You know what, Rohan? I'm sick of your interruptions. If I want your opinion, I'll ask. Is that so? Well, you wait right here. I've got something for you. This is for your own good. How's that for your ASMR sleepy time? Now, there's nothing in your future other than push-ups and kale.
How's that for your ASMR sleepy time? Now, there's nothing in your future other than push-ups and kale! Oh, you little...
Come on, Quentin. Do it!
Something for you right there! And stay down, Rohan.
And that blow to the head may have knocked something loose, but you know what? That gives me an idea.